Hey there, it's Andrea with Go Diaper-Free. I'm going to be reading from Lori Bouquet's book, Infant Potty Training, today on podcast episode number 90 for the Go Diaper-Free podcast. So enjoy watching me record this episode today. Let's do this. Welcome to the Go Diaper-Free podcast, where we're all about helping you potty your baby as early as birth. I'm your host, Andrea Olson, author and mom of 5 babies, all EC'd from birth, all out of diapers by walking. This is episode 90. Infant Potty Training in Indigenous Arctica and America. How people potty their babies in countries without diapers, part 3 of 3. We have today's show notes over at godiaperfree.com/90, where you can read the full written version of this if you need to read things instead of listening. At any point you get interrupted, go there for that. I'm also going to conveniently link to everything I mentioned in today's episode over there, including past episodes. So definitely check it out. I'll also be replying to comments over there. So just come on by when you're finished. If you can't remember the URL, just go to godiaperfree.com and click on blog. Okay, so this is part 3 of our 3-part series, sharing stories from a few groups of Indigenous peoples all around the world who still potty their babies and do not use diapers. Today we're not going to use diapers today. We're going to cover some stories about the Indigenous peoples of the Arctic regions and the Americas. And I do get asked this particular question all the time. Do people do elimination communication in Indigenous communities, or is it altogether something different? I have answered this question over in part 1 of this series, Africa, and that is linked to in the show notes that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so let's get on with today's stories. I've handpicked my favorites from Lori Bouquet's encyclopedic book, Infant Potty Training, a gentle and primeval method adapted to modern living. If you have not read it, please do so this week. So today we're going to share about infant potty training habits in the Arctic regions and the Americas. We did Africa the first time, if you remember, and Asia in the second of this 3-part series. So definitely click over to the show notes so you can listen to those as well. I comment along with and read directly from Lori's book today. Specifically, we're looking at part 4, cross-cultural studies, towards the end of the book. And this is chapter 4, which starts on page 329 if you're reading along. Definitely get a copy of her book if you want to read the longer stories and even more from this trailblazing EC expert, who I also have interviewed on this podcast very early on when the podcast first began. Lori also has a shorter ebook available on Kindle, Infant Potty Basics, which is linked to in the show notes. So here we go. Please enjoy listening as you do the dishes or fold some laundry. First, we're going to talk about infant potty training with the Inuit. So when the mother feels that her baby has to urinate, she takes the child out of the hood. This hood, the Inuit use a deep and warm hood as a baby bag. So like a baby carrier. She often takes the child out of the hood with the help of another woman. On long trips, she slips lichen or rabbit skin into her anorak to serve as a diaper. There is not one specific material that is always used. Mothers take what they find according to the season. You guys, this is a perfect example, this is me talking here, of using the diaper as a backup and not a full-time toilet. Long trip, you're nomadic, you're going to use something just in case. In spite of the restrictions of the region, each woman is inventive enough to improvise solutions, which are then repeated if they work well. However, the baby is not always put into the mother's hood. In some areas of the East Asian Arctic, when the weather is nice and the women sit outside to sew or just talk, they slip their babies into their large waders. With only his or her head sticking out of these 7-league boots, the little one begins to discover the world. Now that is a creative baby carrier if I've ever heard of one. All right, now let's talk about infant potty training in Canada with the Utku Eskimos. I am not going to try to pronounce the full name, but this was reported in 1963 in the Canadian Northwest Territories where the Utku lived. The toilet training that is considered such a critical experience in the life of a Kapluna child does not appear to be a crisis for the Utku child, who from the time he is born is held over a can at appropriate moments. When he wakes, after and sometimes while he eats, before he goes to sleep, and in general whenever he shows signs of discharging. So you guys, all that is, those are the easy catches. And definitely, that's how you can do EC. They're not talking about the child signaling anything. They're just saying, well, if he shows signs of discharging, so he's already going, they take him, or about to go. So that's pretty cool. To continue reading, I did not observe the transition from this stage to the next, in which the child learns to call attention to his need for the can. Alak told me that children learn a verbal signal by themselves, by imitating slightly older children. So that's super cool. Next, let's talk about infant potty training in Bolivia with the Siriano. If a mother hears her infant fart or feels that he is about to defecate on her, and this is from 1940s, you guys, she holds him away from her body so as not to be soiled, but about the only punishment that an infant is subjected to by defecating on her is that of being set aside for a while until she cleans up the mess. Children who are able to walk, however, soon learn by imitation, and with the assistance of their parents, not to defecate near the hammock. When they are old enough to indicate their needs, the mother gradually leads them further and further away from the hammock to urinate and defecate. So it's kind of like doing in-arms holds and holding them out, point and shoot kind of a way of pottying a baby. Contact with urine is not regarded as harmful in this culture, and I frequently observed mothers who did not even move when babies on their laps urinated. Since no clothes are worn by either the mother or the child, the urine soon dries or can be readily washed off, so it's no big deal. Next, let's do infant potty training in Bolivia and Brazil, the Chacobos and the Matis. The information I'm providing on infant toilet training applies mainly to the Matis in Brazil and somewhat to the Chacobos in Bolivia. My impression is that the Amerindian, looks like America mixed with Indian, method of toilet training is very casual, mainly a matter of handling the situation until a child can walk and take care of business on his own. Which, you guys, that sounds like the basic definition of EC, helping them do what they can't do on their own until they can, and then helping them be able to do it on their own. Mothers are relaxed about elimination. If a baby goes inside the house, the mother simply cleans up after the child. As far as I know, women are the only ones who clean up after their children. I have never seen fathers help in this regard. I do not recall seeing a mother get angry at a baby about elimination. Also consider that in the tropics, people tend to get diarrhea. Now, I'm going to read, a lot of this stuff is not about babies, but it's so interesting. I'm going to keep reading. People tend to get diarrhea, so even adults often have little choice as to where they will go. Diarrhea is so prevalent that the Matis sing magic chants to prevent children from getting it. They chant special verses while slapping a child's buttocks with a grub. Okay, you got a visual? I got one too. A typical chant invokes the child in question by name, followed by, "Show me your back so I can beat your rear end so you won't have diarrhea." Okay. It continues on. Outdoors with the climate, bugs, etc. Waste material all disappears in a matter of hours, so there is no outdoor mess to worry about. Dogs also help clean up excrement. This is reminiscent of Harcourt's theory that dogs were domesticated because of their usefulness as scavengers and house cleaners. This is me speaking here. Yeah, my dog cleans up after our chickens, after our cat, after our babies at times, everything. Oh, man. And to continue on, children are visually exposed to excretion at an early age in forest-dwelling societies. One point to consider is that toddlers have more opportunities of seeing their mothers in action than in societies such as ours where people lock themselves in the bathroom and don't take their babies along. Of course, women will sometimes hand their baby to someone in order to have privacy, but this is not always possible. Can you guys imagine that? This is Andrew speaking, hello, I've done this before. I have 5 children. I've definitely gone number 2 with a baby in my lap, sometimes nursing, because all alone, what are you going to do? Raise your hand if you're with me and giggle along. Okay. Continuing the reading. The Amazonian peoples I have lived with are very casual when it comes to mentioning excretion. No euphemisms are used such as petit coin in French. They just say something like, "Wait a second, I'm going to shit." If you meet someone on a trail and he or she asks you where you're going, you can answer, "I'm going for a shit." This is from an anthropologist called Philippe Erickson, you guys. I don't know what year it was, though. This is really fun, though. He continues on. The Métis live in long houses while the Chacobo live in individual ones. The floors are either dirt or palm wood, which is full of holes. It does not matter at all if a baby eliminates in a dwelling. The Métis, like most, if not all Amazonian people, bathe several times a day. Perhaps another reason for not being uptight about elimination. Supernatural beliefs play a role in toilet behavior. The most striking aspect of Amazonian toilet behavior has to do with the contrast between the extreme caution when it comes to adults and the very relaxed attitude in the case of babies. Grown-ups are very careful not to leave their feces lying around because it could be used against them by witches. Some people, such as the Machiguenga in Peru, go as far as burying their feces. They are also very careful not to urinate on trails, even trails which are rarely ever used or miles from any house. because someone else might step on it and be harmed. Their feet might itch. These considerations are important regarding adult defecation, but barely come into play in the case of children. Another ethnographic detail of interest is that during major rituals, i.e. tattooing ceremonies, the initiates are separated by gender, boys on one side, girls on the other, but each group must stick together as a unit for a while and only go out at night. One of the things they do collectively, boys and girls, is going out for their daily defecation. The Kashinahua, living along the border of Brazil and Peru, mainly in Peru, consider urine and feces as 2 of the 5 spirits of an individual. The other 3 are the eye spirit, the body spirit, and the dream spirit, and that's eye as in the eyeballs, E-Y-E. The urine and feces spirits are volatile, meaning they don't last long and certainly disappear after death. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that little blurb. Highly interesting, very interesting, and then think about this, you guys. How much we don't know about any ritual passed on and all this wisdom passed on about poop and pee and the spirits related to that from indigenous cultures from a long time ago. I mean, how did it all begin? What did people think when they first became, very conscious about and started doing higher thinking? It blows my mind. Okay. Let's talk now about infant potty training in Canada with the Kwakiutl. Pardon my mispronunciations. This is from a 1941 book by Cleland Ford, The Kwakiutl of Vancouver Island. When it was old enough to talk, the mother or father would take the child out of the house and down to the beach to defecate. Somewhat earlier, it was taught to urinate in the chamber vessel. Hey, you guys, top hat potties, right? In the chamber vessel. And this is said to have been readily accomplished without punishment. The child was taught the verb to urinate and learned first to tell his mother his want and then to go by himself. Children were not punished for wetting the bed. This, it was thought, would have had no effect since children do not know what they are doing in their sleep. They were, however, repeatedly asked to wake up in the night if they wanted to use the chamber vessel, which reminds me, you guys, of my night potty board book. Have you seen it? Because we encourage them to get up to pee instead of peeing their bed. Okay, so that was that tribe from Vancouver Island. Next, let's go down to Colombia, one of my favorite places in the world. I went there several years ago, and it's amazing. And let's talk about the Kogi, who are an amazing people. Defecation, urination, and breaking wind rather cause hilarity among the adults and older children, not with the object of ridiculing the baby, but rather because these acts are regarded as improprieties, which, in the case of a baby who does not yet know, are not of great importance. If the baby is outside the pouch and naked, frequently the mother gently massages his genital region. It is very common for babies to defecate or urinate while nursing. You guys, this is interesting because you guys always ask me about this. My baby only poops while I nurse. In this case, the mother nearly always gets up quickly and holds the baby at some distance in the air so that his secretions will not dirty her clothing. Also, on such occasions, she looks for an old rag, either to wipe herself off or to put on her thighs to seat the baby on. You guys, it's kind of like nursing over a waterproof cushies pad, just like I recommend. Okay, back to the reading. In any case, the act of elimination at these moments is almost always followed by hasty movements by the mother, the breast being taken away, and frequently the definitive interruption of the nursing. And obviously, you guys, we would pop the baby back on if they pop off to go, but this is what they did. The babies react with shrieks, but at the age of 3 or 4 months, these accidents no longer occur, and they evidently begin to retain the secretions, which, I'll add in there. Yeah, babies start to consolidate and they stop to go during nursing at around that time. So back to the reading. The mother teaches with words and gestures that it is bad to go in the house or in the presence of others. Punishment, exclamations of displeasure, slaps with the pouch, or aggressive gestures, is used for accidents after 6 months. Full control is gained around 18 to 20 months. So for every person, there is a way, right? We don't have to agree, but we can take what we need from these examples. Now let's do the last one. And I was so hoping Lori would mention this in her book. Have you guys read The Continuum Concept by Jean Liedloff? It was written in 1977. She did not intend for it to be a parenting book, but a handbook, but it ended up being one. And if you haven't read it, please just read it. I'm not even going to tell you why, but here's a little glimpse Jean Liedloff provides into the toilet training attitudes of the Yakana and in this book. Yakana do not wear diapers. Elimination by a baby is almost, and by the way, Yakana is a Stone Age Indian tribe down there. Yakana do not wear diapers. Elimination by a baby is almost a non-event, except for the gleeful laughter that follows an occasional soaking. When he wets or defecates, his mother may laugh, and as she seldom is alone, so do her companions, and she holds the infant away from her as quickly as she can until he finishes. It is a sort of game to see how fast she can hold him away, but the laughter is louder when she gets the worst of it. Water sinks into the dirt floor in moments, and excrement is cleared away immediately with leaves. Later, when house training takes place, the toddler is chased outside if he sullies the hut floor. And that is it. That is everything I have there to read the selected stories from Infant Potty Training by Lori Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I have enjoyed sharing them with you. Please listen to part 1 and 2 on Africa and Asia if you haven't already. A giant thank you to Lori Bouquet. Please get a copy of her book. And she is self-published. She has them all produced, and she makes sure to distribute them herself. So definitely support her as an author, please. And enjoy reading and seeing all the photos of these lovely historic accounts of Indigenous pottying habits, as well as a history of the evolution of Western potty training habits where we live, and a really great overview of elimination communication, or what she calls infant potty training. Again, see the written version of this podcast over at godiaper-free.com/90. And if you know of any kind of society that is still not using diapers, please email me, mamas@godiaper-free.com or Andrea@godiaper-free.com. I want to know about it, or write it in the comments, because I feel like these cultures, these tribes, these groups of people are slowly starting to use diapers. Actually, I know this for a fact, and it saddens me so much. And what I want to do is make sure that our indigenous cultures know that the way they do things is often invaluable to saving our environment and to continuing to nurture our children the way they were made and born to be treated. So I'm not sure what to do with all those emotions I have about it, but it saddens me that these cultures are slowly going away and westernizing when what they've got is so good. I suppose it's inevitable, but I also would like to see a lot of that saved and continue on so our children can know these cultures as well. So head over to the comments and let me know, what is the number one biggest thing you got from listening to or reading today's stories? I will see you over there, and also comment, share whatever information you have. I look forward to it. Till next time, when we share Betsy's story of potty training her triplets in 8 days flat at 21 months old. Happy pottying, y'all. I'm Andrea Olson, and you've been listening to the Go Diaper Free podcast at godiaper-free.com, and I'll see you next time. Okay, there you have it. Episode 90. Please comment below. And do you know of any other cultures that, like, maybe there's an article or some link that you can add to the comments below? Would be awesome to hear. It's interesting to always see what resources you guys have, but Lori Bouquet went through back before they even had the internet, and went through and found all these books and found all these stories and went through the hard legwork of collecting them all in the back of this book. So definitely pick up a copy of this if you haven't already. Comment below, hit the bell, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.